Self-internet sessions canceled because the GM's boss is a dickhead and they scheduled him on the day that we play, and then the GM won't just murder their boss like we keep asking them to. So here we are, stuck in scheduling hell, as so many people are in life. Welcome back.
I'm still not over what you just did to me. That's insane.
I don't know what you're talking about. What did I just do to you?
The absolute fucking audacity of this man.
I didn't do anything. I don't know what you mean.
I know. You know what you did.
You have no proof. You have proof of nothing.
You're right. No, technically I don't, because you did it as you started the fucking master, you asshole.
You have proof of nothing. You can...
Oh my god, I'm gonna stab you in Minecraft.
In Minecraft?
Yeah, you know, you can't threaten to kill people no more on the internet, so you gotta say whatever you're gonna say and then say in Minecraft.
Oh, I thought it was you have to say, I'm gonna unalive. Then you're good. I'm gonna unalive you.
That too, yeah.
Anyway.
Commit no breathe jutsu. That's what I want from you.
Commit no breathe jutsu, yeah. Rausen, fuck you. Oh god, what day is it? Who are we? Where are we doing? What are we doing?
Don't say what day is it. I turned 27 in 2 days. I'm gonna cry.
I mean, it's Monday. I wasn't necessarily not talking about the date per se, but yeah.
It's too late. I'm stuck in the Nego prison.
If you're feeling old, then I'm ancient, dying, and withering. So,
I mean, yes.
Yeah. And Matt's made of dust already.
Yeah. Look, that perfect hairline of his won't last forever. I'm just saying.
I mean, you don't know that, actually. Some people do die with, like, pretty much untouched hairline.
Yeah, but I'm saying this despite Matt, personally.
That's fair. I mean, I wish you good luck in your spiting, I suppose.
Don't worry, I'm spiting you as well.
I would not hold your breath on that one. Anyway.
We'll see.
We'll check back in, like, 20 years.
Yeah.
See what's up. Nobody wants to hear us rant and rave about this. What are we here to talk about? Taxes and tax evasion. All right. Step 1, move to Switzerland. All right.
I was gonna say, do I look like Wesley Snipes to you?
I like that Wesley Snipes is the one that came to mind.
It's the one that everyone memes on.
That's true. That's true. It's okay. Wesley Snipes is cool again. He was in Deadpool. So it's fine.
Is that really?
The bar? Listen, I didn't have strong opinions of him either way prior. And like, what's a little tax evasion? As far as crime goes, I'm not going to hold anything against you for tax evasion. Who cares?
I think one of my favorite lines in Deadpool, when he's like, "It's only one blade. It's only ever going to be one blade."
Yeah.
It's like, my man.
They definitely put that in there just to be like, just because it's Wesley Snipes. Like, that was...
yeah, I mean, because it's Wesley Snipes, but like also the living hell that the other Blade movie is going through. You're like, dog, have some decorum, please.
Hell no.
Oh my god.
Anyway, wow. Listen, we're spoiling Deadpool. We shouldn't be doing this.
I mean, the movie's been out for like 3 months. I don't know.
I don't know. You know, people don't assume things.
That's not my problem if you can't watch a movie within 90 days.
Damn.
If you can't take a mortgage out on your house to go to a movie theater, because that's what they cost nowadays.
Not on your house. It's just an extra car loan. Come on, don't be so dramatic.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm sorry. My apologies. You know, okay.
Listen, what's starving for a week?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what you talk about if you're going to the movies in New York, and it.
I mean, yeah. Little what you were gonna say? Little known fact or something? Where I cut you off?
Oh yeah, the first time I went to a movie theater out here in Tejas, we went, and my ticket, a large drink, and a extra large popcorn, because you know I'm a big boy. That cost about $30.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh my god, it's so cheap. And my dad's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, dude, you don't understand. Like, a movie where I used to live,
okay, wait.
The same thing is like $50.
Okay, hold up. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to help me with the math here, because I don't really buy anything food wise at the movie theater. I'll get like a coffee or like some candy. Like I don't really go crazy. So like, ticket, big ass popcorn, big ass soda. What were you looking at before?
In New York?
Yeah.
In New York, it's at least $18 for your ticket.
It's a little cheaper where I'm at, but yeah.
Well, so you have to remember the movie theater near my house closed down, and we had to go to the one across the bridge.
Right.
And then a large popcorn, not even extra large, a large popcorn was $12.
$12 for shitty popcorn.
Yeah, so you're already at $30. And then a drink was like $7 or $8.
Sheesh.
So you're at $38 plus tax. You're looking at like $44.
I didn't know the popcorn was so fucking expensive. What the hell?
Yeah. Look, the AMC near us it's a good theater, but it is dog shit. Whereas where I lived, it's $15 for a ticket, or no, $13 for a ticket, $8 for popcorn, and I think like $6 for a drink, and then it's like, $3 tax or whatever.
I see.
So nowhere near as bad.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't really like popcorn much.
You know what it is too? I love popcorn. I don't actually eat a full like extra large movie theater popcorn when I go to the movies, but I do always want it like the next day, and I'm like, oh, I still want popcorn. So I just buy more than I'm gonna eat.
Yeah, fuck. Girlfriend said the exact same thing. She said the exact same thing. And I was like, I don't understand this. And she was like, but if I want it later. I'm like, what do you mean want it later?
Look, the lady's got a point. I'm just saying, she's just objectively correct. I don't make the rules. I just work here and enforce them with lethal intent.
I guess. Anyway, this has been Isaiah and Josh's random talk about movie theater. I feel like one of these days we should make... never mind. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that on air because it sounds like I'm promising things. We're not going to promise things. Anyway, I was like, don't say things on air. Don't say live. Don't say quote me on that. None of that shit. Never say these things. Never promise things.
Correct.
That's the rule of the internet. Anyway, we're talking about Fabula Ultima again. Because Isaiah put me up to it. It's the only way to put it.
I take umbrage to that. I was like, hey, while we got this train rolling, we do have the other book we could do. And he was like, nah, I'll think about it. And then like 2 days later, he's like, nah, right, we'll do it.
Yes, but I wasn't going to. And then for both of the supplement books, you're like, we could though.
Wait, whoa. Don't you point at me for high fantasy. That wasn't me. You were like, by the way, we're doing high fantasy. And I was like, okay.
No, you suggested it.
Show me receipts. Show me receipts right now here, live on air.
I can't find the receipts live on air. It's going to take too long, but I'll try to find the receipt. Maybe there is. I might be lying.
Yeah.
I'm not positive.
Like you did to the universe earlier in this episode when we started.
I'm not, listen. I'm not positive. But this doesn't matter. We're talking about the Techno Fantasy book, Fabula Ultima, Part 4. Let's fucking go. Gang. Blinded by Light begins to play in the background. The only good thing to come out of Final Fantasy 13.
That's not entirely true.
I stand by that statement.
Come on.
Listen, at this point,
Snow was cool.
Look, at this point, me hating on 13 is sort of just like a self-perpetuating meme, so like I can't drop it now.
Fair enough. I stand by Caius and his weird Steven Tyler villain outfit.
His outfit was cool. I'll give you his outfit.
His weird leopard print bandana and like, why was he just Steven Tyler?
I don't know. I don't know.
We need to get Aster in here and be like, why was Caius just Steven Tyler?
I have no idea. Anyway, we're doing okay. So the second There's a couple of supplements, but this is the second big supplement for Fabula Ultima, is the Techno Fantasy book. I mean, tabletop games don't really use that phrase, but yeah, basically. It's the Techno Fantasy book. It's one of the, 3 or 4 types of games they mentioned in the core rule book, right? Because it was like high fantasy, the Techno Fantasy, and then the natural fantasy, I think, was the other one.
Natural fantasy, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the Techno Fan, because the core rulebook was like, you could do it however you want, and then the author was like, however, if you would like me to tell you how to do it, here's how you do it. As we established with the Atlas of High Fantasy, that book kind of just feels like an extension of the base game, because the base game is already pretty high fantasy vibes, right? So that one feels not like it's not drifting as far away from the original material. The Techno Fantasy book, however, is wildly different.
It is. I won't go as far as to say it is basically a different game, because that's not true. But
it's a big change in how you play the game.
Yeah, it almost feels like Techno Fantasy feels Techno Fantasy to Fabula Ultima feels like Worlds Without Number is to Stars Without Number. Fundamentally the same game. The
same base system, but a different, a totally different
But a completely
vibe.
Different vibe with completely different rule sets. And frankly, if played as it's supposed to be played, just changes the way that you have to play the game.
Yes, you're going to be playing. Yes, if you play the Techno Fantasy book 100% as is, you're playing a very different thing. And the Techno Fantasy book, the Atlas of High Fantasy book, I said, you can kind of mix and match the high fantasy, like the stuff that's in the high fantasy book, you can slap into the core game and things will vibe pretty much fine. The Techno Fantasy book, that is significantly less true.
To the point that it literally says, if you use some of these rules, these are not plug and play. This is like everyone must agree to play this game the same way. Yeah. Because if you don't, one of you will be playing a different game on a completely separate level of play.
Yes. And it'll be weird and confusing. So,
yeah.
All of that being said, I will say, I'm not going to lie, when I first started reading the Techno Fantasy Supplement, at first I was a little disappointed until I got to the meaty bits and I was like, oh, this is the stuff I was looking for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because we'll talk about it in a little bit, I'm sure. But for the shorter stuff like, they have the quirks come back in this, but a lot of the quirks are the same. You get some genuinely unique ones that are pretty cool.
A couple of new ones.
But a lot of those are the same. The rules for custom weapons basically the same with a few separate tags. The heroes actually quite cool. We'll talk about them in a bit, I'm sure. Artifacts very different. Did you notice? Okay, I have to bring this up because I loved it so much. The comp, the fucking wrist computer devil summoning program from Shin Megami Tensei is an artifact item.
I didn't actually know. But
it's called the Demon Downloader. It's literally a wristwatch that lets you summon demons from the Soul Network. I was like, yo,
I mean,
let me summon my Cerberus. Let's go.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Where's my edgy best bud with his, Edge Boy trench coat and Spas 12?
Yep. Oh wait, maybe I did actually read the Demon Downloader. Yeah. I mean, listen, the author of the, as we established before, the author of this game definitely has played a lot of fucking. I mean, they say as much themselves, but the proof is in the pudding. They've played a lot of JRPGs. There's a lot of weird references. And listen, if you're referencing Shin Megami Tensei, you're pretty deep in the RPG sauce. Yeah. SMT is not, especially because Persona has become the cooler big brother of the SMT games. SMT is not super well known or out there.
Yeah, especially if you're referencing the wrist comp from SMT 1 and 2.
Yeah.
A big Decker arm thing. Yeah, you're deep in the sauce, bud.
Yeah. So, the writer definitely put their money where their mouth is in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So this book structurally is basically the exact, like, layout wise and order of operations and where the information is pretty much exactly the same as the Atlas of High Fantasy. So rather than going through the book and like looking at each of the individual bits, I'm just going to talk about the different stuff, because there's a lot of stuff of here that's sort of repeated from the Atlas of High Fantasy, but it's been tweaked to fit the Techno Fantasy thing. And there's no point in me humming and hawing over that. We already did that the previous episode. So we're going to focus on specifically the shit that is different. That is the objective here.
Okay.
I'm telling both you, Isaiah, but also people listening, both.
I mean, I figured this is what we'd be doing.
Yes.
As I was reading it, I was like, oh, we're going to skip over all. This is going to be a short episode, hopefully.
Don't.
Big asterisk.
Do not say or commit to that. Never say it live. What did we just
I said hopefully.
You shouldn't, don't put the energy out in the air. Anyway. Much like the Atlas of High Fantasy, it starts with a little introduction mentioning that, the themes, the vibe this book is trying to give you, which is to say sci-fi, cyberpunkian, authoritarianism, and like weird media manipulation and like computers with magical horse shit. If you played the Star Ocean games, there's some of that vibe going on. Final Fantasy VII being an obvious reference to some of this shit. Those are the kind of vibes that this book is trying to hit. Again, like with the previous book, this is not a end-all, be-all statement on what Techno Fantasy has to be. It's just, the author's opinion of like, this is how I would do it. Right? Okay. They give us a new 8 pillars, which are let's see. Are they the same? Some of them are the same.
Some of them are the same.
Some of them are the same. Some of them are... No, I think they're all the same 8 pillars, actually. Clashing community, because it's Ancient Ruins, Harsh Lands, World in Peril, Clashing Communities. Everything has a soul, magic and technology, heroes of many sizes and shapes. It's all about the heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Mystery, discovery, and growth. Yeah. So they are the same. I lied. I'm a dirty, filthy liar.
Yeah, I mean, the minutia of them are different. So, like...
Right, yes.
The heroes, despite it all, in High Fantasy, they talk about how your characters will only take life as a last resort, whereas in Techno Fantasy, it's murder. Heroes, despite it all, is your characters are more willing to take life, but it's for the greater good ultimately.
Yeah, you're gonna fuck dudes up. Shit's grim and dark.
Yeah. It says dark themes such as guilt, doubt, anger, and vengeance are extremely common, and it's likely that characters will kill one or more adversaries during combat. So the game kind of expects you to start stacking bodies. Just know that, you got to at least try to be the good guys.
Hit them with the glicky. Before that, it mentions like what defines Techno Fantasy for Fabula Ultima. It says injustice and despair, outcasts sooner or later, which, the main characters are outcasts, yeah. Between concrete and existential, which is just a good sentence.
Yeah.
And then it mentions, so I forgot we were talking about digging into the deep notes of RPGs. Homeboy's out here talking about soul hackers and Xenogears. Forgot about that. Because it says the main references. He's like, Final Fantasy VII is the most well-known and emblematic Techno Fantasy. And you're like, yeah. And then he mentions Xenogears, Xenosaga, Soul Hackers 1 and 2.
I caught that. So something really funny.
Deep notes.
And we'll see this. Yeah. Later on, when they bring up the adversaries, one of them is just 9-ball from fucking Armored Core 1 through like 3.
Oh.
And it's called, oh god, what is its name? It's called 9. And its head shape is literally just 9-ball from Armored Core. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, all right, fair enough. So, sure. So yeah, again, just readdressing. Homeboys plays a lot of RPGs. So, we go through it mentions the pillars, and then it talks about some core themes. There's a lot of talking about themes, yada yada, blah blah blah. Whatever, doesn't matter. Like I said, we addressed that previously. Just like with the Atlas of High Fantasy, it has I think it's 9 or 10 example locations and what to do with them and how to use the themes of them, blibbity blah. Like I said, we went over this before. How to handle technology and the magic in technology and technology's influence on the society and how to use the sample questions and so on and so forth. Again, there's a whole bunch of them, and like we said with the Atlas of High Fantasy, you could definitely smash all of these bad boys together and have a perfectly ready-to-go setting, more or less. Bing, bang, boom. Then it talks about dealing with, again, like the previous book, it talks about dealing with conflicts and how they might differ and how to make them interesting when you're dealing with the techno fantasy vibe. And if anyone's curious, because I guess I probably should have said this before, but techno fantasy is basically just sci-fi stuff, but you add this layer of fantastical horseshit over top of all the sci-fi gobbledygook, right? So characters will have laser guns, but also cast magic spells from said laser guns. It's that kind of thing. Or the laser gun. They have laser
guns that are powered by
soul
magical batteries. Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe we're talking about. So again, to use the obvious Final Fantasy VII example, Barrett just uses a fucking gun to fight, but Barrett can also cast Firaga. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of totally what we're talking about. So a lot of the sci-fi tropes that you are used to, if you like sci-fi, you can use a lot of those sci-fi tropes in a techno fantasy style game because they are basically the same vibe. Not 100%, but basically. Mm-hmm. Wait, what the hell? Sorry. I lost my spot in the book. So the conflict section talks about how to utilize a lot of that stuff, and you're like, okay, cool. There's a header that just says law and justice. All right, yeah. Just very aggressive. And it talks about, techno fantasies are often quite dystopian, so deal with that accordingly. It mentions a little bit how to deal with vehicles and mecha in your game, and you're like, oh, I would like big robots in my weird fantasy game. Can I use the big robots? And yes, but it doesn't address it here. We'll get to that a bit later.
Oh, you bet your sweet fucking bippy.
Yeah. Now, the main thing that I was interested in this little conflict section was talking about vehicle scale battles. So when I was reading this initially, I was maybe a little disappointed because I was hoping that there would be some unique mechanics to the vehicle scale battle stuff, to to just the vehicle situation in general. But after I thought about it a little bit and I read some of the other rules that are provided and stuff, I was like, actually, a lot of the time when a game has rules for vehicle combat or whatnot that are just completely 100% their own bespoke system, it gets kind of annoying to play with them anyway. Because yeah, because most of the time in an RPG, it's okay, cool. So we've been playing the game this way for a couple of sessions. Now we're gonna have a vehicle combat, and we have to play an entirely different rule set and deal with an entirely different system that we have to learn when we were busy learning the other half of the game before.
Well, obviously Lancer is my touchstone for this at the moment because
Lancer's different though.
Gameplay and mech gameplay is different, but the ship combat in Fantasy Flight Star Wars I thought was really fun.
It can be fun, And if you get used to it, you know, it's fine, but there is an annoyance often with the having to switch modes to like almost a completely different game midway through your through a session because you're like, okay, let's do a vehicle thing now. There are certain games where it is like more expected or more acceptable to do that, and with Star Wars, I think having vehicle combat feel quite different is fine for Star Wars because a lot of people want to play a Star Wars campaign where they basically play, you know, what's the Tom Cruise movie playing Top Gun?
Oh, yeah.
Where Tom Cruise is a very straight, manly man, very straight. Anyway,
yeah, that's funny.
Like a lot of people kind of would want to play Star Wars like Top Gun, so having a pretty deep vehicle system and a system that's different from the way the rest of the game kind of vibes, sure, fine. Fabula Ultima, like, I'm not looking for this to be my Gundam game. I'm not looking for this to be my Starfighter game. I want that stuff to be in there a little bit, but I'm not expecting that to be the primary crux. So I'm okay. Initially, I wasn't, but then when I thought about it, I'm actually okay with the vehicle system not really being its own system and kind of just being like a slight adjustment on existing systems. Like, I'm fine with that. And Lancer being the other example, Lancer's different because Lancer is a mech combat game where they have a little subsystem involving the pilots on the side, but like most of the game is about the mech fighting. The game does not expect you to like Lancer expects you to play like, I mean, the percentages may vary, but like Lancer's like expecting you to play 80% in the robot and 20% on your feet, right? Whereas like Fabula Ultima is expecting you to play 80% not in your vehicle thing and maybe 20% in your vehicle whatever thing. You know what I mean? Like that's part of it too. So, and also, I don't know, sometimes it's just annoying. You don't want to have to try and like, if you've been playing a new game and you've gotten used to playing your character and stuff, it's like, cool, throw all that out the window because now you have to learn the vehicle combat rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I understand what you're saying. I personally like getting to like do basically a mini game, especially if it's not a super common thing, you know, like something like, you know, it can break the monotony. And I think it can be fun, especially if it's handled well. Again, like Fantasy Flight Star Wars.
But I would argue, well, Fantasy Flight Star Wars vehicle stuff is okay. I don't know if I love it.
I thought it was great. As someone who built a character who I didn't think was ever going to get in a ship, nor did I give a fuck about being in a ship, nor did I want to be in a ship. When I was forced to be in the ship, and I was like, oh, why, you know, I have no skills in gun or piloting. What do I do? And they were like, oh, you operate the force fields. I was like, hold on, actually, that could be cool. And then it turned out to be really cool when you have to redirect them to different parts of the ships and restart your systems and shit. I had a great time when I was expecting to.
It's fun. I just, like, I don't know. I remember liking it, but not, like, super loving it. I remember there bits of it I was annoyed with. But I probably would be less annoyed of it if we were playing the Ace Combat Star Wars game, right? Like, then I would probably feel more comfortable because we get a lot more usage out of it. Whereas I threw it in a little bit here and there when we played. Mostly just to kind of try it out. All that being said, how the fuck does Fabula Ultima handle it? So, step one. Well, I should clarify. There's kind of two sections of the book that handle the vehicle stuff. This is the very broad overview bit. There's a section later that gets you some more specific stuff. So step one is you establish the size of the thing. So in this case, you have small size, medium size, large size. Basically, small size is, you know, a person, an individual, a pilot, an exoskeleton. The character's cool hoverboard, you know, shit like that. Medium size is, you know, boats, tanks, jet, starfighter, I don't know, mechanized horse robot, you know, shit like that. And then large size is like big aircraft, big galleons, spaceships, walking fortress, colossal robot, space whale. You know, big shit. And then it says anything above a large size should just be treated as an environment. Which, like, yeah, that makes sense, because if it's beyond the size of like a starship, it's a planet at that point.
Yeah.
It says, so during combat, small entities can interact with medium entities. Normally. And then small entities can affect larger entities, but it has to be through like a project, a ritual, a countdown clock of some kind. You can't just walk up to a tank and shoot it with your pistol and hurt the tank, right? Because fictionally that's nonsense, and mechanically the game is not interested in trying to crunch the numbers and build some minutia damage system around making that work or whatever. So it's just like you just can't.
Yeah, you're not, you with your AR-15 are not shooting down, an airship.
No, as funny as that would be. And then medium entities can interact with small and large, basically freely, which is to say, like, if you're in a starship, you can, or if you're in a starfighter, I should say, like a jet, you can shoot at the, the capital ship, right? Sure, checks out, makes sense. Very Star Wars. And then it says large entities can interact normal with medium and large entities. However, if a large entity causes a small entity to lose any amount of hit points, the small entity automatically dies.
Yeah.
You just toasted. If the starship fires at your character, you're gone. You're toasted. Bye-bye.
You're just getting glassed. Yeah. I gotta chuckle at that one too. I was just like, yeah, I mean,
goodbye.
That makes sense, but the comedic effect of, and obviously, like, you can't do this to a player character, but like,
no,
the idea of Dweeboy McNPC fires his rocket launcher at the capital ship and then vaporizes him in 3 city blocks from orbit. You're like, oh no, he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Would be magical.
And then it says the expectation is basically that small and large entities will almost never directly interact because it's goofy. Why would you, right? That you're not gonna like stab the why can't I think of what they're called? The Dorito ships in Star Wars. Why am I the Star Destroyer? Jesus.
The Star Destroyers?
I don't know why I forgot the name of those. You're not gonna stab the Star Destroyer with your sword. That's a little stupid.
But what if I wanna?
No. Oh, bitch.
But I'm a Jedi, sir.
That's true. So then it talks about so vehicles as NPCs. If you need a full profile of an enemy vehicle, you basically just make them as a construct NPC using the creature building rules in the core rulebook. So you just build a ship like you would build a dragon, basically, which is fine.
Wait, I just had an amazing idea.
Yeah. Okay.
What if you, as a game master, right? You crafted this character, who, for all intents and purposes, the players are like, oh my god, it's an annoying GMPC. Oh, he's doing all this cool shit. You basically just make him Star Killer from The Force Unleashed, and then the second he tries to pull the Star Destroyer out of orbit, it just fucking nukes and kills him. And like, you just completely bait and switch your players.
I mean, that would be hilarious. Yes.
I would respect a GM so much for that. Just be like, you know what? You did it. You got me.
You got me. You win, bitch. Lucky you. So it says, it also says if the vehicle is operated by a villain, it must be treated as a form of that villain. So it gains access to Ultima points, the evil warlord's big spaceship and or Darth Vader's TIE bomber, right? TIE fighter. TIE fighter? Was he in a fighter or a bomber?
He was a fighter, right? TIE Advanced. Yeah, it was the TIE Advanced fighter.
4? Was it?
Yeah, he was in the TIE Advanced. He had the only TIE Advanced. You know it was the TIE Advanced because the bombers looked like the TIE Advanced, but they had the engine next to the cockpit. The Advanced had the single cockpit with the long strut in the back.
I don't remember this, but I will. Oh, Oh yeah, it had the ass tail thingy.
Yeah. Look, I love Star Wars ships so much. Me and Sam tiz out about Star Wars ships from time to time.
I know you do, yes.
Just take my word for it.
Yes. No, I was gonna say at one point TIE Interceptor, but I was like, that wasn't a thing yet.
No. Although the Interceptors were cool as fuck though.
Correct. Anyway. Yeah, and then so basically it's like in a battle where the PCs are aboard vehicles and face off against human-sized troops, describing those troops as swarms is a simple but effective way to express the scale of the battle. Same method works well for conflicts where the heroes fight a group of vehicles, right? Okay, cool. That's the vehicles as the NPC. Then it talks about how to deal with, all of the PCs are on the big fleet battleship and all doing something, right? So the last optional rule is if it's available to PC groups who have obtained a medium or large size transport fit for combat situations, by using this option, our heroes can enter conflicts against enemy vehicles and foes of similar size aboard their own group vehicle. So you get a big ass group vehicle. It's like, okay. This I just thought was kind of funny. This is perfectly fine advice, but I'm going to be a little pedantic here just because I don't know why not. It says this rule should only be used if you expect at least 1/3 of the campaign's battles to take place aboard the group vehicle. It is particularly fitting for games where player characters have acquired the stolen transport quirk. Listen, that's perfectly fine advice, but what does 1/3 mean? How do I quantify 1/3 of the campaign's
how does one quantify a third? Yeah, that's funny. I had thought about that when I had read it. And kind of just was like, yeah, all right. But yeah, now that you bring it up, it's like, wait, hold on. Pause.
It's a perfectly fine way to describe it, because how else would you really describe it? I get what they mean by that. I understand what the author means, but if you want to be a little pedantic asshole, you could be like, yeah, but what does that mean? You know what I mean?
Be a pedantic asshole, because this is the beef I have with Lancer when you're like, how big is an NHP casket? And they're like, roughly leg sized. And you're like, what the fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Yeah. So, the group's vehicle profile must be created collaboratively between the players and the GM. Makes sense. So these are the rules for how you do a group vehicle, which is to say, your ship that carries a small, you have a starship that carries 10 to 15 people, and when it gets into a fight, you need some people to man the guns and someone to pilot, and yada yada, that kind of a vibe. The Millennium Falcon type shit.
Yeah.
It's created as a soldier rank construct whose level is equal to the highest level PC. Whenever the group rests in a port, a shipyard, or other location because obviously you're probably going to be flying around in this thing, where some maintenance is possible, the vehicle's level is updated, becoming equal to that of the highest level PC. And its profile can be freely modified and rewritten by the PC and game masters, once again collaboratively, making sure to describe the new customizations. My only beef with that bit is it doesn't quite... I don't believe it mentions anywhere how you should handle that in a pricing sense. And if it should cost something or not, which is not a huge deal, but I did notice that.
Yes. I mean, yeah. If I was to sort of infer the reasoning for that, I'm just going to assume it's because it's not what they care about.
Yeah, no, the game just doesn't care about that part.
Yeah, the game doesn't really have money sinks like that.
No, it does not.
And they're literally Zenny is not and should not be the big reward.
Yeah, it's not that important. The vehicle has up to 3 basic attacks and 3 more skills than a normal construct at its level, because again, you're building it like you would build a monster in the base game that is a construct type. However, it cannot gain class skills, obviously, and it cannot acquire the extra initiative and use equipment NPC skills, because that would be a little silly. It deals 5 extra damage with attacks and spells. Additionally, as its level increases, the vehicle receives attribute increases and bonuses to checks and damage listed on page 302 and 303 in the core book. It should have access to at least 3 different damage types between its attack spells and other abilities. I love the mental image of giving your ship the fireball spell or something like that.
Yeah.
This is a fundamental aspect because the GM must have enough creative freedom when designing adversaries. Basically, it's just saying the ship needs to have more than just one attack method, because otherwise then you as the GM can only throw so many things at them before it becomes kind of bullshit, right? If the ship can only do lightning damage and you just throw lightning immune things at it all the time, it's horseshit, right?
Yeah.
The ship does not have an initiative score. And then give the vehicle a memorable name. Sure. Everyone's going to call it the Highwind or the Enterprise. Anyway.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like, Paladin is like, how could I remake the truck from Hellscapes in this? So he's like, the Scrap Dragon will live again. Like, you know, bud, go for it.
Would not be hard.
No. Except that, I guess it did fly this time.
Yeah, flying Scrap Dragon.
They fly now.
They fly now. When a conflict
I was hoping for like a visceral response to that joke.
That line doesn't bother me as much as a lot of other people.
Oh, really? I mean, I love that line. I think I genuinely chuckled when
I thought it was funny just because, like, a lot of people thought it was a stupid line because stormtroopers have had jetpacks for a long time in many different ways and places. I just thought it was funny because the idea that Poe is like, well, A, just so fucking done with this shit, and B, doesn't know enough about like the Empire or stormtroopers or any of that shit to know that them flying is like not really a new thing.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny.
The big like, well, it's funnier too because Finn is like, they fly now, and he's just like, I fucking guess. It's very somehow Palpatine returned. It's very episode 9 is just Poe being done with fucking everything.
But somehow Palpatine returned. That line actually bothered me.
No, yeah. I mean, it should. They literally, like,
so
if you couldn't give enough
stupid
of a fuck to explain the premise of the movie,
the premise
at the beginning of the movie,
yeah,
like, come on, dog.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, the whole movie is him being like, I cannot deal with this shit.
Poe he really needs a break. He wants to go to bed. Stay down about it. Yeah. Him and Finn, really.
Yeah.
Anyway. When a conflict is heavily focused on vehicles and transports and or involves adversaries of a medium or large size, the GM may declare that the group vehicle is available for that battle, provided it makes sense story-wise, of course. The group agrees. All the rules described on the next page will only apply to the scene. In order for the game to go smoothly, the conflict should only include the PCs and their enemies. Allied NPCs should just be kind of scene dressing in the background, or join the battle aboard the vehicle. Basically, it's like this game does not support massive fleet armada Eve level combat bullshit. It's not built for that. So like, you can describe it. That can be the scenario, but mechanically you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I wouldn't expect a game like this to do that, you know? So when you determine the participants, each PC must declare whether they will join as a crew member, or if they will join as an individual PC located outside of the group vehicle. So, for example, everyone else is in the Millennium Falcon, and then the pilot shows up in their Gundam alongside the Millennium Falcon, right? Like, those are the two.
Yeah.
That's the situation it could be. The vehicle cannot participate in the initiative check because the crew members do the initiative instead. When a crew member would take their turn, instead, the group vehicle obtains a turn. So you all smush your turns together, basically, during which his actions are chosen by the PC controlling that crew member. You know, so on your turn, you're like, I will fire the guns. If the vehicle is affected by turn-related effects, those effects are based on the vehicle's turn. They do not depend on a specific crew member's turn. The vehicle begins the conflict with its HP equal to maximum HP indicated, multiplied by the number of crew members. A crisis score equal to half its max HP, current HP and mind points equal to its maximum, and no status. But basically, it starts up topped off. If the vehicle has 0 hit points, it automatically surrenders and becomes inactive until the end of the conflict. The GM can apply surrender consequences to the vehicle itself or the crew, however the fuck you want to do it. The PCs who take the role of crew members must not be treated as being present on the scene and only gain access to their own abilities as described below, right? Because you're not physically out there in space firing your laser gun, right? Everybody's working on the ship. When the vehicle performs a check, any crew member can spend Fabula points to invoke bonds and traits. You know, your turn, you're like, I invoke my whatever trait to fly through the asteroid field better. The vehicle has access to all the rituals available to the crew members, which is, I like the idea of someone's in, like, everyone else is like firing the guns and keeping an eye on the shields, and the wizard's in the middle of the fucking cockpit, like, getting his magic spell ready.
No, you just, the way you did that just reminded me of the metaphor singing, like the Esperanto.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hi,
Yeah. The wizard's just in the background trying to focus on his spell as shit's exploding and people are screaming and yelling.
Just singing, screaming, and crying in Esperanto.
Yeah. So the vehicle has access to the same rituals. Additionally, when a vehicle has a cast a spell during its turn, it also has access to the spells known by the crew members. So you can fire your fireball out of the vehicle's gun, I guess, or something. I don't know. During its turn, the vehicle may spend mind points from the crew member who is controlling it instead of its own mind points, if you want. The vehicle may perform the inventory action by spending inventory points from the crew members controlling it. The vehicle only has access to remedy, elixir, tonic, and elemental shard, which is to say the vehicle can't use the rest action thing that or the magic tent thingy.
Yeah.
When the vehicle performs the study action during its turn, the crew member who is controlling it may apply any abilities and effects that grants benefits to open checks and to checks performed to examine creatures and locations, blah, blah. You can add your bonus. And then it gives a sample stat block. Or like a sample vehicle stat block. That's what I was trying to say. So that's how the game wants you to handle vehicle stuff. There's a little, this will come back around to this.
Sorry, you gotta say the name. The Glodsheimer?
I don't know how
Glodsheimer?
I don't know.
So that's Nordic. From the R at the end, so it's Glodsheimer? Glodsheimer. I believe it's Globshimmer.
I didn't try because I don't know, but also it's the starship led by Commander Scotty.
Have you seen him? He looks sick. Or her,
Wait,
them, I don't.
There's art of that
Scotty
character?
looks sick. Yeah, it's one of the pre-mades.
Oh, okay. We gotta talk about one of the pre-mades. There's one that I thought was hilarious.
We might be talking about the same one.
Maybe. And then it says there's a little warning box at the bottom. These rules rely on the fundamental premise that the entire battle will be handled as a form of self-contained minigame, that both the crew members and independent PCs will remain such for the whole conflict. If the group boards an enemy vehicle on the second phase of the conflict, or the second phase of the conflict shifts to personal scale, switch to the normal rules. So it's basically like when you're doing the vehicle fighting stuff, you use these slightly more specific rules. As soon as you stop doing that, ignore these rules. Make sense?
Yes.
After that, it talks about magic and rituals again, and just how to like recontextualize them in a cyberpunkian sci-fi kind of vibe, how to make them, fit and make sense, shit like that. Mm-hmm. Again, the Atlas of High Fantasy talked about doing this too, but obviously for Techno Fantasy, you might want to give it a slightly closer read, just because the Techno Fantasy vibe is quite a bit different. It also talks about handling the idea of the soul network, magical gobbledygook.
The live stream, but also the internet.
Yeah, the internet live stream. And then it has a big section about just how you should handle technology and cybernetics, and crazy, big, over-the-top, fantastical machines and space travel and dealing with the map. It's all very Vice column-y stuff. There's a little tiny bit of dealing with like warp travel, like interstellar travel. There's a little bit of mechanical stuff there, but it's nothing to write home about. So I'm skip over. It's not a big deal. It gives some costs and some distances on some like interplanetary travel, interstellar travel, yada yada. Again, mechanically, nothing to write home about, but it is there. And then it goes into there's a section on the rare items. And this is one spot in this book where I was like, maybe a little disappointed. Because it goes into talking about the equipment. Because you're like, oh, Techno Fantasy game, I might want to do something different with the equipment. And basically the game is like, we didn't add any weird equipment or anything. You could do a lot by just reflavoring and recontextualizing the base game's equipment, and then using custom weapons to fill out the weird gaps. Which, on one hand, so like for example, it says swords with energy cells that infuse the blade with bolt damage, carbon fiber bows, crossbows that use laser pointers, shuriken drones, right? So it's like you could just recontextualize a lot of shit. Which is like, yeah, fine, sure. It's obviously you can take the runic shield in the base game and turn it into a force field shield, you know, stuff like that. I still wanted, I don't know, a couple more sample base items. I don't know about you.
No, I agree. Like,
I wanted a little bit.
Yeah, I wanted new sample items. You know, not many, but like maybe have like, you know, the other game has like pistols and like they have their own thing. So like maybe you can have a pistol in this game, but because it's a laser gun, it like doesn't make sound, but it's weaker or something, you know, just some new items. 'Cause I get what they're doing, but you know, as the equipment guy, I wanted more equipment.
Yeah.
Which we kind of got with the rare items, but like, it's not.
So you do kind of get it. So what it says too is, so it says the basic equipment will probably not cover the entire needs of most Techno Fantasy campaigns. So, you know, aware of it. For this reason, we recommend using the rules for custom weapons, which the custom weapons will get you very far. They will do a lot of heavy lifting for sure. The other thing they suggest is, and allowing the purchase of rare items during character creation. Which I thought was an interesting choice, because it's basically saying you can start with more powerful stuff from the jump if you want.
Yes.
I was like, interesting idea. The only thing I would, at that point, I'd be like, okay, that lessens some of the rewards I could give to the players then. But I guess maybe you could make the argument that in the Techno Fantasy game, you're not going to be finding magic items as much anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're likely going to go to like an arms dealer and buy them.
Yeah, so I was like slightly in debate about that. And then it says, if even this is not enough and you want equipment modding to become a key access of the campaign, you could use the optional rules for technospheres. And we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Just stash technospheres in the back of your brain real quick.
User.
Cause yeah. And then it talks about, you know, building some custom weapons, and then it gives a bunch of example rare magic, or rare weapons. So weird mono whip flail thingy, the Therion Ripper, which is like energy swords on your fist, a carbon bow, a grenade launcher, the ignition spear, the scale thresher, which I think is
believe that's just a chainsaw.
Yeah, chainsword thingy. Yeah.
Well, so okay, I just want to break down scale thresher. Scale thresher, so like a thresher is something that to thresh, right? I believe threshers were back in the day what you used to like separate hay. So I think this is supposed to descale giant aliens, like giant alien fish, basically, and you're just using like a fucking chainsword.
That makes sense. Yeah. There's the RNG, the RN generator. RNG, the RN generator.
Yeah,
good little goof there.
Yeah.
You get the idea. So they gave a bunch of rare items to work as, sci-fi, techno fantasy vibe equipment.
Oh yeah, sorry, I just looked it up. Yeah, to separate grain from plant, typically with a flail or by action of a revolving mechanism. Yeah, it's a fucking Titan descaler.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And then there's also a section on rare weapon modules, which I was very confused about at first because the weapon modules thing doesn't come up till a little lower down.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. But it does give you some examples of those. And then it talks about artifacts. There's no new rules for the artifacts, just a bunch of new sample artifacts that are, weird sci-fi techno fantasy stuff. The alien umbilical cord.
Okay, is that a Bloodborne reference?
I'm almost positive it's Bloodborne reference, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what else it could be. The black gear, the cloning vat, the demon downloader, which is what Isaiah was talking about. The M dyad model, I feel like also must be a reference to something, but I don't know what.
The hilt of his sword found in a mysterious lab. I mean, I believe it's just supposed to be a straight up lightsaber because it deals light damage.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh,
it can be used to absorb and shatter magic, so it's literally just a lightsaber.
The name M dyad makes me think, I don't know, something else. But yeah, I guess you're right. So yeah, that's the artifacts. There's a bunch of new ones, but there's no new rules to the artifacts. Then we get a interesting piece of art that has big Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, but with like a robo dog man looking at a space map.
Yeah.
He's interesting.
Well, yeah, you have Dryad and the alien Dryad, bug person in the back.
Yeah.
Robo Dino, anime girl, anime boy, anime girl, anime girl. Oh, sorry, you get the Major from Ghost in the Shell in her cool cyber wheelchair.
Yeah.
Interesting party comp.
Yeah. Then we get into the new stuff for the protagonist, which, much like the Atlas of High Fantasy, is the juicy tiddly bits, if you will. It gives you some, it talks about how to make characters that, again, as much of this book, it's got the advice column stuff. It talks about how to make characters that fit in the Techno Fantasy vibe and background themes and how to handle them and what kind of characters make sense and fit and so on and so forth, And then it gives some sample characters. And again, the sample characters are the same as the Atlas of High Fantasy sample characters. They're a bunch of sample characters you can use if you want that have like backstories and classes built into them and yada yada, so on and so forth. Oh, there's Commander Scotty, you're right.
Yeah,
that's a Char face.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
That's a Char face. Yep. The one I just need to mention, however, is Garnet.
Garnet, yeah, buddy.
I'm just gonna read this.
Cyber fucking goldfish.
Yeah. Just to get you an idea of what kind of wacky woohoo shit you could potentially play in this game, Garnet, which has a very cute little art of it, it's a cyber goldfish with a fan on its chest. Born when a cluster of secret data mysteriously gained sentience in the depths of the Soul Network, Gar.net took the name and appearance of the mascot of a company that produces hardware and software. Garnet's memory is fuzzy, and reasonably so, since he became aware of his existence only a few days ago. No, nevertheless, he remembers catching a glimpse of a mysterious figure when he awoke and has a duty to perform. Stopping the machinations of Halve, a multinational corporation that owns the most important social networks and wants to use the social network to control how general population acts. Garnet is a support specialist combining Esper, Loremaster, and Spiritist class, and his cooling fans are a custom weapon of the arcane category. So his weird chest fan is his weapon. I don't know, it fires lasers or something? I have no idea.
Good question. Underneath it, I feel like you have to make special reference to Phoenix Igarashi, the lawyer.
Yeah,
not so subtle reference to a certain other lawyer.
Phoenix Igarashi, yeah, is a good one. Yeah,
and then at the bottom we just have New 13 from critically acclaimed J fighting game Blaze Blue.
Oh, I thought it was a Xenosaga reference.
Oh, that's a good point. It could be. I don't know. The weird. Yeah, for me it was the weird pointy leg things and
I think
like
she
a headband.
Has those too.
Oh, does she?
I think so. Hold on. Right, Cosmos? Yeah. Does she have the pointy feet? Maybe she doesn't. Nah, she kind of do. Yeah, she kind of do too. But I don't know. Anyway. So yeah, there's a bunch of and then Solias, which also I think is probably a Xenosaga reference.
Yeah, the name is Solias, yeah.
Yeah. So the sample characters are very funny, to say the least. Then we get to our first new class, which is first it gives a breakdown of all the stuff that's coming. So the new classes are Esper, Mutant, and Pilot. Esper is your psychic character, psychic powers, and sort of your Gundam new type, but also kind of your like D&D psionics character. It's a little bit of both of those. Mutant is a person who can like change their body into weird mutated forms to do, you know, alien shit. And then Pilot is a pilot. It's, you know, it's a pilot.
You're a Gundam pilot.
You're a Gundam pilot, you're a spaceship pilot, you're a hoverboard pilot, you have an exoskeleton. You got a lot of options when you pick the pilot. Then there's the custom weapon rules, which are completely identical to the Atlas of High Fantasy custom weapon rules. Nothing changed there. So, you know, obviously you use them as you will, and then it gives you a couple of example custom weapons that fit the, you know, fit the Techno Fantasy tone. I feel like I've used the word vibe too much.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, it's a good word, but yeah. Then there's the Techno Fantasy quirks. Again, the rules governing the quirks are the same. There are some new quirks in there. Such as like Agitator, which is your you're like a rebellion leader type person. Or Cognitive Ghost, which is your brain. You're a technomancer from Shadowrun. Your like brain is partially in the Soul Network, I think is the idea.
I love that it shows the hacker using their crazy techno cosmic powers to play fucking Tetris.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. The Diabolist is a new one.
Enigmatic Relic is new. Distant World is old.
I don't remember. The Enigmatic Relic is another pretty big one with a lot of shit going on. What is the bit on the Enigmatic? It's like you have a crazy relic, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah. You found literally. Yeah, you're like. Weapon. Yeah. For me, yeah. Who was I gonna relate it to? It's
that's right. The Diabolist quirk is the one that just turns you into the Nahobino.
Yes.
That's
right.
Yes,
you are straight up. Yeah, Nahobino.
Yep. You have a demon familiar and shit. Yeah.
Nahobino. And actually, if you could be in Nahobino if you took some levels in Weapon Master, because you have the the Blade Flourish thing, which is just Aramasa.
Yeah. The Fugitive Experiment one is like, you know, your weird experiment, you broke out, and so you have strange powers. The 100 Faces one is like you ninja, you hide, you disappear. Inventor Prodigy, that one's pretty much what it sounds like. Then you got Neo Human, which is like
so real quick,
you're a new type.
Inventor Prodigy I think is cool. Yes, you are straight just a new type. But the thing I really like about Inventor Prodigy is it is taking a similar route that the Initiate feats took in D&D. Because it basically gives you access to the projects that the Tinkerer has with some extra stuff. So it's like, well, you don't want to spend your levels in, well, you know, we'll talk about it later, but the multi-classing is a little more limited in this. So you might want to take a little dip in a class and not have to commit to it.
Right. Then the Planet Oracle, which is you talk to the planet, sorta.
Sorta, yeah. You're an ancient. You're literally Aerith. Repentant
Enforcer is like, I was a cop and now I feel bad about it, so I'm not a cop anymore.
That's a one. That was a little deep.
That one's heavy for sure, and is also quite a chunky quirk. Mm-hmm. The robot one's the same. The stolen transport one's the same. The survivor one is like, some crazy shit happened on my planet, and then I survived it. And the beast who spoke, which is just, you want to play a sentient dog?
You want to play, your Red 13, your
Red 13,
Cat She, fucking, you want to play a Moogle? You can play a Moogle.
Yeah.
Or, as we saw before, a sentient holographic fish.
Yes, or as the art depicts right under the Beast Who Spoke quirk, a corgi with miniguns on its shoulders.
Yeah. Well, actually, sorry, there's one more quirk that you missed underneath that one. Zyphos symbiosis. Do you just want to be a soul eater?
Yes,
I just turn into a sword?
Yeah.
Or I just grow weapons out of my body like an obliterator from Warhammer 40k? That's a really cool one.
You pick a player character as your wielder and you turn into their weapon.
Yeah.
Again, insane.
Sereth, Paladin's girlfriend, was like, I want to do this one. And we're like, yeah, okay, that's fair. It's a pretty cool one.
It's fucking wild. Much like the Twin Souls one. It's like, all right, that's a lot of buy-in from the other player.
Yeah, correct.
So then, everybody sit back and light up a cigar, because then we're getting to the good meaty shit here. The technospheres.
Oh, baby.
This mechanic is fucking
thick.
Wild. It's a wild mechanic. Okay. Okay, do you remember? I don't remember what we were talking about, but it was a little while ago when I was like, something that frustrates me about D&D is that it's often behind the times in terms of game design. Remember me talking about that?
Yes.
Okay. This is what I mean. This Technosphere example is a great point of what I mean. So D&D, I feel like, always seems to be afraid to push new, unique mechanical ideas or try things that are too far out of the box, right? So the comparison I made, I made a note of this. So in Mythic Odysseys of Theros, you have the piety mechanic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the piety mechanic's not bad. Basically, you pick a god that you follow or worship, and you do certain actions. Like, based on the god, you do certain things that the god approves of or disapproves of or whatever, and your piety score increases. As your piety score increases, there's like number thresholds, and when you break certain thresholds, you get a new ability. Cool, fine. But at the end of the day, this is effectively just another way to unlock feats. Right? Like, it's just character feats. It's just feats for your character, just unlocked in a slightly different way via this score as opposed to leveling up, right?
Yes.
You're not going to drastically really alter how you play D&D just because you're using the piety mechanic. You're still playing basically the same. You're just fictionally, you might be doing some action. You might be doing some actions a little differently or thinking about things different than you would initially with your character because you have this piety score that you're trying to vie for. So you're like, oh, maybe I'll do something that my god would like here in this situation. But you're still playing basically the same. The Technosphere mechanic is such a huge change to the game's existing class structure and equipment mechanics that it will drastically affect a sizable part of the gameplay. Like, it will change how you play this game, and thus makes this supplement feel like unique and cool and worth your money. And this is in stark contrast to what D&D usually ends up doing, where they just build mechanics on top of the existing game, right? They don't really shuffle the base mechanics up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the Technosphere mechanic, as we're going to explain in a minute, literally removes the normal class structure of the game. It removes how you level up normally and replaces it with an entirely different system. And then also but drastically changes how equipment is handled. So like the comparison or if D&D were to do something, like let's say D&D did something like this, imagine, if you will, there was a new class that D&D introduced that was like a Death Knight, right? And then the Death Knight says specifically, you can't start the game as this class. Your character has to die for you to be able to play this. And once your character has done that, this class doesn't level up the way other classes does, and it has an entirely different like power structure to how it gains abilities, right? That's kind of the comparison we're talking about here. D&D would never do that. The Death Knight would just be another class, and it would just have abilities like a class. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, what the fuck are these Technospheres? Now that I've shat on D&D, as I often do, I know, it's kind of the meme at this point, but I had to point this out because you asked me about it a little while ago. I was like, this is a perfect example. This is cool, interesting game design that feels newer and modern that D&D is scared to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not just D&D, but D&D is, the one you think about the most. So fictionally, the technospheres, if anyone who's played Final Fantasy VII, they're materia. It's just materia. It's straight up materia.
It's straight up, unapologetically, actually materia.
It's materia. I will read the description of it. Technospheres are crystals in which energy from the worldwide stream of souls has coalesced and stabilized. When placed within specially constructed equipment, these gems react and alter its characteristics, perhaps even granting new powers to the user. Fucking materia.
Mm-hmm.
It says the optional Technospheres rules deeply modify many of the mechanics present in the core rulebook with the goal of replacing part of the complexity instead of merely adding to it. So literally exactly what I said. If you use these rules, all player characters must follow them without exceptions. And the reason for that is because they change things so much that if only one person is using it, it's going to be very weird and very confusing. And like, could you do it? Yes, but you're not going to want to. Like, it's just deeply not recommended. If you really want to try, I suppose knock yourself out, but I definitely wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either.
So you have two types of technospheres. You have memeospheres, or I think that's how you say it.
Memospheres.
Memo. There's an N in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like mnemonic.
Yeah. Whatever. Memeospheres are, so lore-wise, are generated by the accumulation of thoughts, emotion, and knowledge present within the stream of souls and respond to the stimulus of new events and experience. In gameplay terms, each memosphere is associated with a class and grants its user access to some of the corresponding skills. Then you have hoplospheres, spheres like orb, not spear like pokey, are quite literally clots of soul energy tied to a specific element, such as fire or earth, or a concept, such as healing or casting of spells. In gameplay terms, hoplospheres reinforce items in which they are placed, or the abilities of those who equip them. So basically, you slot your materia onto your equipment, and it gives you class levels and different equipment abilities based on the thing you're holding. There's some stuff. The game also talks a little bit before it gets into the mechanical bits, how you can handle technospheres in lore. But like, who gives a shit about that? We need to talk about how they function as a mechanic here.
We're looking for mechanics, baby.
Mechanics, baby. It's all about the gameplay. So the only types of equipment. So if you use technospheres, the following equipment applies. The only types of equipment are the following: custom weapons, custom armor, custom accessories, plus weapons and armor modules for the pilots. So you can't use base equipment. You have to use custom equipment if you're using this mechanic. Which, quite frankly, to me means fuck the basic equipment, because why would you not use the technosphere mechanic? I don't know about you.
I mean, there's reasons, because because you're stuck with custom gear, you completely lose the ability to use one-handed weapons.
No, I know. I'm saying the technosphere mechanic is so cool that I would never want to play the Techno Fantasy. I would never use this supplement and not use it.
No. Okay, I see what you're saying. No, I completely agree. Like, it's there. You should use it. Yeah.
Ergo, basic equipment in this supplement book basically doesn't exist.
Completely pointless, yeah.
Yeah, which is funny because the basic equipment is also not listed out in this book. So
it's just straight up not. Yeah.
Any other equipment simply cannot exist. For this reason, you should ignore the dual shield breaker skill from the Guardian and turn the magic spheres from the Tinkerer class into an advanced Magitech benefit, removing the Magicannon completely. The specifics of that don't matter. The point is, there's a couple of abilities that straight up will not work on certain classes. So, like, just be aware. Custom weapons and armor cannot have qualities outside of those detailed in the chart below, which offer slots for the technospheres. Basically, they can't have qualities of their own. The only qualities they can have is whatever qualities the spheres are granting to them. On the other hand, accessories and rare modules for pilots follow the normal rules for rare items and cannot have the qualities listed below, which is to say you can't put the spheres in accessories or equipment modules, which equipment modules are a pilot unique mechanic. In order to lighten the GM's workload, NPCs cannot have the use equipment skill nor use technospheres. Their abilities may be described as coming from weapons, armor, or technospheres, but they're not treated as such in terms of rules. To compensate for this disadvantage, NPCs belonging to the humanoid species receive an additional skill. Basically, don't put technospheres on enemies because it's too much fucking work. It's not worth it. Just describe them as having the technospheres, and that's how they do their stuff. Like, don't make it too complicated for no reason.
Yeah, like, I feel like really this is where I got to step in and really specify. If you're like, nah, but I don't.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's really not worth. These technospheres are fucking complex, dog. Like,
there's a lot going on here. It's not worth it.
I had to reread them about twice before I was like, I think I got it. And even then, it's, I think I got it.
Yeah. So the quality that the weapon has is basically you can increase the amount of technospheres that the item contains. That's the long and short of it. Slot A costs you nothing, gives you 1 technosphere slot. This quality is automatically present on all weapons and armor, which is to say everything can equip 1 technosphere. Then you can pay to add slots and to add, so if you do a slot beta, 2 technosphere slots, a maximum of 1 memosphere. Slot Y thingy.
So yeah, it's
Epsilon?
alpha, beta, epsilon, delta.
Okay.
It took me, brother. For delta, I did, because for delta, I'm used to the triangle. But I was like, I had to go deep in the memory banks for that one, dog.
Yeah. So the upgraded versions offers 3 techno slots, 2 memospheres max, and then 4 techno slots, 2 memospheres max. The 4 slot option is only for weapons. So how does it change character creation? Each player character is created at level 5 using the normal rules, but you must distribute those levels among 3 classes. You have to have 3. And you might say, why do I have to have 3? Well, because those are the only 3 you're getting.
Yeah.
The 3 classes chosen this way are considered innate classes for that PC. Upon creation, each PC receives a permanent increase of 5 HP and 5 mind points. They also gain the ability to equip martial melee weapons and ranged weapons. So because you're using this mechanic that utilizes the custom weapons, everyone can use martial weapons. Don't worry about that. Each player also receives a level 1 memosphere of a class of their choice upon creation. So then it says, okay, so how does the advancement work? When a player gains a level, they increase their character level by 1 and invest 1 level into an innate class or into a memosphere of their choice, chosen from those available to the group. Over the course of this advancement, characters may invest levels in their innate classes as per their normal rules, but cannot acquire new classes, not even after mastering all 3 innate classes. So effectively, your base classes cap out at level 30, because you can level them all up to 10. You can't add any more. All additional classes are going to come from your memospheres, because having a memosphere equipped on a piece of equipment gives you class levels, which also means if you remove the equipment, you lose those class levels.
Alternatively, you can sort of hot swap classes, which is really fucking cool, dude. You can, did you watch the fucking Final Fantasy 14 Shadowbringers trailer and see Meteor hot swap classes and be like, I want to do that in a game so fucking bad, dog, you don't understand.
Here you go.
You can do it now, baby.
Yep.
It's so sick. That's the first thing I thought about. I was like, I can finally live the dream. I can live my dream and do the weeb stick wiggle.
The characters The character's max HP and mind points, as well as their attribute die size, increase at levels 20 and 40, and any other effects whose power varies based on levels are calculated using the character's level, which is thus separate from the total level in innate classes and equipped memospheres. So, like, you have your maximum level increases, but your innate classes are capped. So, like, if you're level 50 and you're in prison, so you don't have any equipment on you, so you don't have your memospheres, mechanically, you're, like, still level 50, but you don't have any of those other class skills you would normally get, is essentially how that works.
Yeah, so, like, in D&D terms, if you were level 20, but your classes were tied to your gear, you'd still have your proficiency at 6. You'd still have the ability to cast 9th level spells. You just wouldn't have those 9th level spells because you are wizards. You know, your wizard ring is in another room.
Oh, yeah. And then it says beyond level 50, a character who's already reached level 50 cannot further increase their character level, but they can receive XP and invest any levels obtained this way into innate classes and memospheres. That's base rule stuff. So, equipping technospheres. Technospheres can be freely placed within any weapon or armor fitted with the proper slots. Anyone who equips the item in question receives the benefits of all the technospheres within it. Placing technospheres in an item is a task that demands common attention, so it can't be done during a conflict. The same piece of equipment may contain both memosphere and hoplospheres, provided you stay within the same slot. For an instance, a beta slot can contain two technospheres at most, only one of which can be a memosphere. Which is to say, like, you know, you can mix and match them, assuming you have room for it.
Yeah. You need your attunement slots for your gear.
Yeah. An item cannot contain 2 or more memospheres that share 1 or more skills with each other. So, you know, you can't, like, stack them.
Yeah.
The character may never equip an item containing a memosphere that grants 1 or more skills they already have access to, be it through an innate class or another memosphere slotted into a different item they have equipped. Again, you can't double up. Some hoplospheres require and occupy more than 1 slot. You can, this I thought was cool, you can place 2 or more identical hoplospheres into the same item, which may cause a coagulation effect. So you can double up the equipment ones, and they will actually get stronger effects if you, like, add more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Each memosphere, so this is talking about the memosphere specifically, the ones that give you class levels, are tied to a specific class. For the sake of simplicity and balance, it is recommended you limit the memospheres to the following classes: Chanter, Chimerist, Commander, Dancer, Elementalist, Entropist, Esper, Fury, Guardian, Lore Master, Orator, Rogue, Sharpshooter, Spiritist, and Weapon Master. I'm not sure. I didn't look at the list super carefully, so I'm not sure why he went with that list specifically. But basically, he's saying don't use the other classes. I assume probably because there's wacky woohoo broken builds you could do if you do. Would be my guess.
A bit. So they specifically call out that you should not let memospheres, technospheres be used for things like Arcanist, because Arcanist has an intrinsic tie to the universe and the lore of the universe, so that should always be special magic and should not be commoditized.
Ah, okay, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
For the other ones, I don't know, but they specifically did call out Arcanist somewhere here.
Right, okay.
Before we go on, I do want to call out Mrs. Sniper on the page above. Just like, there's a character, you can tell she's a sniper, she's got a big sniper rifle and a little chest full of technospheres, and she's like picking one up and about to throw it over her back, like, don't need that one, don't need that one, don't need that one, like don't need that one.
She got like there's a bunch of them like on the floor, and she's pulling them out of a chest, like she just can't find the correct one.
Yeah, she's like, I know there's a sharpshooter here somewhere.
Yeah.
I know I put it in this box. Who touched my sharpshooter?
When a character invests a level into a memosphere, that memosphere develops a new skill of the corresponding class. or increases the skill level of pre-existing class as you would when you normally level up. A memosphere may contain 5 levels at most. Once it reaches level 5, that memosphere is mastered and develops a heroic skill of the corresponding class or a generic heroic skill. The requirements of the chosen heroic skill must be fully met for that specific memosphere. As long as a PC has a weapon or armor containing memospheres equipped, they gain access to all the skills inside of it. As soon as the item is unequipped, they lose all the benefits and abilities, including, for instance, spells learned through the Chimerist memosphere. Those spells are part of the memosphere, not the character. So if you drop that shit and it falls down a well, tough shit. Bye-bye.
Yep, that's L's dog.
Memospheres do not grant access to the free benefits of their classes, nor do they allow characters to start projects or perform rituals. Characters who wish to obtain these abilities must do it through your innate classes. So you have to be a little more picky-choosy with your innate classes if you're using this, because there's some limitations on what the memospheres have access to. And it says it's a good idea to use a memosphere sheet in order to keep track of each memosphere's advancement and make it easy for the group to swap them between different characters. Which is great. You just like hand someone your gun and they just obtain 15 class levels that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
And then you got the hoplospheres. I'll be honest, I kind of find the hoplospheres more interesting. The like character level swapping bit, I almost don't care about as much.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I like the equipment modification vibe, like maybe a little bit more, you know?
Interesting. Okay.
So for hoplospheres replace the normal system of granting qualities to items and allow player characters to frequently reconfigure their equipment. When placed within a piece of equipment, a hoplosphere infuses it with its power in a way that is unique to the specific type of hoplosphere. Many hoplospheres feature a coagulation effect, which are added to the hoplosphere's normal effect when identical hoplospheres are placed together. I'm pretty sure this is also a mechanic in 7, where you could put duplicate materia to double up their effectiveness.
Yes.
Yeah. So technospheres, and then it says, so how should you divvy these up? How you dishing these out? Technospheres is rewards. Technospheres work best when the group has a good quantity and variety of them available. Because of this, the basic premise is that these crystals spontaneously appear in the game world, so that it feels natural to stumble upon some during a session, such as a Fury memosphere being generated by the wrath of a rampaging monster, for instance. In other words, you could like run into someone who, you know, run into the monster, you fight the monster, it dies, and then it disappears into the magical soul network dust, and then it drops the memosphere where it was, you know. For the sake of determining rewards or selling price, each technosphere is worth approximately 500 zenith, and each already present level inside a memosphere increases its value by 300. And then it gives a big list, that's 2 pages, but there's a list of hoplospheres, ready to use hoplospheres that you can check out yourself. And then it gives a couple of optional rules if you would like to maybe not play with exactly how they're described. When the rules governing technospheres have been tested and proved to be fairly robust, the rules governing technospheres, they can require some adjustments, as is often the case when an optional rule has such a profound impact. I think it's very funny that the author of the game is not just the fact that he's like aware of how much it affects the style, like the play, but also the fact that he's calling it out multiple times. I thought was funny.
Okay, he's like, all right, Holmes, let me level up with you. This shit wild.
It's crazy. You know, it's gonna mess with your game. Be aware.
I really appreciate that. I
do too. I just thought it was funny.
This has been truly tried and tested, and there's like you are getting yourself into some shit. So we think you should do it. We think it's worth it.
It's cool, but be aware.
But it's some shit. So just be aware. You know, like I really appreciate that as a game master who has tried some shit and then got really in over his head.
Yeah. So
appreciate you, Holmes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's good advice to put in your game. So it gives a couple of options to adjust how they work. So first you have integrated technospheres. If you use this option, which is especially appropriate for mutants and pilots, The player character may place a number of memospheres equal to or lower than 1 plus the PC's level divided by 15 inside a device, an armband, or some other contraption that offers a narrative justification to ensure that the class in those memospheres remain available. However, the character cannot equip items with the circly thingy slot, and can only use their equipped item technosphere slots for hoplospheres. So basically what it's saying is, because the mutant and the pilot may often be in situations where they're not carrying a weapon, especially with the mutant, which can fight with their appendages, give them some sort of like, they wear a necklace that has the technospheres equipped or whatever, so they don't lose it. Just level things out a little bit. I don't know if I would or would not use that. If it became a problem, I might consider it, but I don't know. Then it gives a suggestion of using only memospheres. If the group decides to use memospheres but would rather keep the normal equipment rules, they may implement a variant of the rule described above. Each PC can maintain a number of active memospheres equal to or lower than 1 plus the PC's level divided by 15, and equipment simply follows the standard rules in the core rulebook. In this case, hoplospheres don't exist. All types of equipment are once again available to the PCs, and the PCs no longer gain the ability to equip all martial and melee weapons at character creation. So that one's like, if you want to do the character level stuff, but not the equipment modification stuff, I don't see a situation where I would ever want to do memospheres only, personally. I don't know about you.
I could see a hoplospheres only run.
That's what I was going to say, yes. I would do hoplospheres only, but not memospheres only.
Yeah.
The next rule it mentions is, if the group wishes to customize equipment with hoplospheres, but without tying class advancement to the memospheres, you may apply all technosphere rules for equipment, but the final slot with the circly thingy quality is no longer... Yeah. The quality is no longer available. In this case, memospheres don't exist, and player characters do not increase their maximum HP or MP by 5 during character creation. They do gain the ability to equip martial, melee, and ranged weapons, however. So yeah, that one's like, yeah, using hoplospheres only, where you modify your equipment, but don't necessarily tie your class levels to it. I could definitely see a game where I might want to do that, but doing the one where I only do the class, like the memosphere class level stuff, I don't know. I don't see a scenario where I'd want to do that.
I don't really either, frankly.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea. It's an interesting idea, but ultimately I'm going to value the hot swapping, like, equipment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if I it's a situation where you have to choose. It's like, well, I might have a really interesting idea for my character. Maybe I'm not going to use the memospheres as much.
Right. And then it gives us the sample hoplospheres. I keep wanting to say holospheres, but there's a P in there. Hoplosphere, like Hoplon. So hoplospheres marked with an asterisk can only be placed in weapons, never armor. So some of them, there's 60. It starts at 11, so there's 55 of them or something. There's a lot in there. There's a lot. It's a fairly big table. The same weapon cannot obtain hoplospheres that are tied to different damage types. For instance, a weapon can contain 3 toxic hoplospheres, but not a toxic holosphere and a voltic hoplosphere. This specific limitation does not apply to armor. So basically, you can have a weapon that does poison damage, but you can't have a weapon that does poison damage, bolt damage, and fire damage. And then it says, these are obviously only a few examples. The GM is free to create more using these as a reference. Players may also propose some spheres through their survey or wish list, which is a thing in the core rulebook. So just to, I'm not, like I said, there's a bunch of them, but just to kind of give you an idea of how they work. So like the first one it mentions is agile. You treat your dexterity as if it were 1 die size higher. This hoplosphere occupies 2 slots. So you have a gun, it has 2 slots. You put the agile sphere in there, both of them are taken up, but your dexterity die goes higher as long as you have that gun on you. The next one it mentions then is Arctic, which is you gain resistance to ice damage. If this item is in a weapon, all damage it deals becomes ice. If you put 2 of the Arctic sphere in the same item, you gain immunity to ice damage. If you put 3 of the sphere in the same weapon, any ice damage you deal ignores resistances. When you deal damage, you may choose its type, and when you deal damage, you may change its type to ice. So if you want to really go in on a specific, like, this is my ice rifle that does ice damage, you can double and triple down. There's like a whole I really love the coagulation effects. I think those are very fun. I don't know about you.
No, I mean, I thought you were going to continue that thought. No, the coagulation effects are super cool. I really like that you are rewarded for experimenting, but you are also rewarded for doubling and tripling down.
Yeah, going it hard. Like, I really like this particular idea.
And it's the kind of JRPG shit that you want to do. Like, that's the stuff that most people go to art JRPGs for, is like the cool mix and match customization. It just feels right.
Correct. A cool one, the draining effect. When you hit 1 or more creatures with this weapons, you may recover 3 HP and 3 mind points.
That is pretty cool.
It's a fun one. Gladiator, this weapon deals 2 extra damage to humanoids. If you coagulate 2 of them, you gain a +1 bonus to defense. Nightly, you gain 2 extra damage to monsters. So there's like there's a whole bunch of them. I'm not gonna, again, it's a long list, not gonna go through the whole thing, but lots of fun mix and matches you can do there. And as the book says, you can make your own right after. Like, once you've seen a couple of these, it's pretty easy to be like, oh, I bet I could do this or that. You just want to be careful making them too powerful, but that's always the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then there's a little section where it talks about so the game has Technosphere tracking sheets because the game designer came up with all of these rules and then realized, he's like, man, this is probably going to be a little hard to keep track of. Maybe I should make some cards to help with these.
Yeah.
So you can actually go on the Fabula Ultima website, and there's cards that you can print out where you can put all of your Technosphere information, so you can keep track of how you're like hot swapping your equipment or whatever.
I did not know that. That's actually really fucking cool.
Oh, what? They're on the website?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit on the website that's like resources to use.
Huh.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of sheets to help you with that. And then that's the end of the Technosphere bit. I mean, I'm sure it's apparent by the way I'm talking. Like, it's a fucking sick mechanic. I love it. Big fan. And I like that you're still playing Fabula Ultima, right? Like, you're the base, the core, the heart of the rules is still there, but it's different. This Technosphere mechanic makes it different enough that you feel like you're playing something new and fresh, as opposed to just playing a supplement of the same game. Like, it is a supplement of the game, but it feels interesting enough. It gives it enough of that different vibe that you have something to really chew on.
Yeah, like I said, it fundamentally is the same game, but will have a fundamentally different experience.
Yeah. Fundamentally,
yeah.
And then we have the new classes. So, it gives the classic character examples, which is the thing where it shows you how to mix and match a couple of the classes to make like a certain kind. What's the word I'm looking for? A certain archetype of character. So the chimeric hunter, the cyber vampire, the magical gun girl, the net wizard, the psychic avenger, so on and so forth.
I like Road Knight
Road Knight, yeah. And then it gives you just the same as the previous book. It gives you two 4 character group samples. The first one is some revolutionaries, and you're like, okay, cool. The second one is the pilot squad,
the Gundam pilot squad.
Yeah, they just made the pilots from Seed. They just made like the Gundam Seed team, basically.
Yeah. Well, so you know what's funny is Nemo and Gozen are names of Gundam, are mobile suits.
Of course they are.
So I popped that one and was like,
of course they are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah. So each of these in the pilot squad, each of them has some levels in pilot for their various mechas. And then we get the first class, which is the Esper. So like all the classes, they have their couple of, skills that you level up, and you can take multiple skill levels in the skill to then upgrade it, and it increases its effects, so on and so forth. So each of these classes has a unique mechanic to them, much like how the Chanter had the singing, the verse mechanic, and the Dancer had the dance mechanic. So the Esper has the brainwave clock mechanic. So every time you use one of your gifts, so gifts can only be used when specific events take place. When this happens, you may spend an amount of mind points equal to the number of filled sections in your brainwave clock, multiplied by 5, minimum of 5, in order to apply the effects of that gift to the event. And you might be like, what the fuck's a gift? I'll get there in a second. If a gift causes you MP or HP recovery, or if it causes you MP loss, the amount increases by 10 if you're level 20, 20 if you're level 40. So the brainwave clock. When you first acquire the psychic gift skill, you also get the brainwave clock. Your brainwave clock has 4 sections, and it begins the scene empty. When you resolve one of your gifts, fill a section of the brainwave clock. Your brainwave clock determines the gift's cost in mind points as well as its effectiveness. The sections of the brainwave clock may not be filled in any way other than described above. They may only be erased through the brainwave discharge heroic skill, or through the effects that expressly influence brainwave clocks. So basically, as the fight is going on, you're going to build up this clock, and then it will give you the ability to unleash your psychic gifts, and your psychic gifts do a bunch of different shit. So the first one is Atmokinesis, and the event is when you deal damage. So when you deal damage, you get a chunk of the clock. That damage becomes air or bolt, and its source deals extra damage equal to 2 plus the number of filled sections in your brainwave clock. As the clock is stronger, you deal more. There's the clairvoyance one. The GM asks the GM a single question. When an NPC becomes your focus, or when you create a bond towards an NPC, and focus is another skill that they have that they can pick up. So when an NPC becomes your focus, ask the GM a single question about the NPC, which the Game Master must answer. Then describe what sensation revealed this information to you. You may only use this gift once on each NPC. You have Gravitokinesis. Some of the names on these are wild. This is another when you deal... here's a good one. Life transfer. When you cause one or more enemies to lose HP, choose yourself or an ally who is your focus. The chosen creature is in crisis. They will recover an amount of HP equal to 5 plus the number of filled sections of your brainwave clock multiplied by 5. Psychic Shield. After an enemy you see performs an accuracy check or a magic check. For the purposes of that check, you may treat your defense and magic defense scores as equal to your willpower die size plus the number of filled sections on your brainwave clock multiplied by 2. You may still use your more normal scores if they are better. So that one's your wizard shield spell except with your brain. The basic idea is that you build up this clock thing from doing various actions, and then when you unleash the power, it is more powerful based on how many chunks are in the clock, and it doesn't... it fills up and it stays filled up until you discharge it, or something empties it, like something specifically set. It doesn't empty out on its own, essentially. Easiest way to put that. I think one of their skills specifically mentions emptying it, but one of their normal skills also mentions, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So yeah, I mean, Esper's cool. Esper's the most straightforward of the three, though, I would say.
It is the one I'm least interested in, which is not to say that it's bad, because they're all sick, but it's the one I would probably play the least.
It is probably, yes, it is the most basic of the 3 new ones in this book. Because then we have the Mutant. The Mutant...
It's literally everything I wanted Beast Barbarian to be. Like,
yes.
Straight up.
Yeah. Understandable. Yes. The mutant has some extra melee damage because they have claws or whatever, or tentacles or whatever the shit. They have some like weird healing abilities and some offensive things, but their big thing is called Therioforms. I don't know where this word comes from, but Therioforms are mutations that grant powerful abilities. The way they manifest is completely up to you. Theria, I think is how you'd say that. For instance, might turn you into a person-sized bat or simply give you large feathered wings. And I believe that ability gives you flight, I think is what that one does.
Yeah. Theria, yeah. It lets you fly and you can't be... You basically... So, okay. We talked about this before. You get the flying tag.
The condition,
which means... Yeah. You just basically cannot be targeted by any melee attacks.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And then fictionally... You might have to overcome that problem, or in the case of you flying, the enemy might have to overcome that problem. Once you use the Theramorphosis skill, the chosen Therioforms last until the end of the scene. They also end if you die or fall unconscious. Perform the guard action or use the skill again. I don't know why the guard action turns them off. I thought that was kind of odd.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was a little weird myself.
You may end the effect of your Theramorphosis at any time, but during a conflict, you can only do so on your turn before or after an action. When a scene ends, if you are under the effect of your Theriomorphosis, you may spend 10 mind points to extend your current Therioform to the next scene you will be in. So yeah, basically you morph your body into horrifying monstrosities, or I don't know, maybe not. To do all sorts of effects. And again, there's a big list of these various forms. The Theria one, you are able to fly. In addition to the obvious advantages in mobility, your melee attacks can target flying creatures. You cannot be targeted by melee attacks. These benefits don't apply if you're unable to fly freely, such as when inside a vehicle designed for human-sized creatures. Additionally, when you suffer airbolt or ice damage during a conflict, you lose these benefits in the start of your next turn. That's kind of funny. That feels like a Pokemon reference.
It might be, actually.
It might be. About that. Then there's some of the names on Arpactida. These are definitely names being taken from somewhere. I don't know where from. It also gives you a couple of Genocelpsis suggestions, which I think is saying how the gene expresses, I think is the point they're getting at there. So for the...
Yeah, I believe it's the creatures that express this behavior.
Yeah, so the Arpactida one, it says wolves, birds of prey, creatures with sharp hunting senses. You treat your insight as if it were 1 die higher. When you deal damage to one or more creatures for the first time in your turn, at least one of them is in crisis, deal 5 extra damage to each of those creatures. You have the Dynamotheria, bears, dinosaurs, creatures of massive size. Your might die increases. When you succeed on a check to advance or turn a clock, that check includes might. If that check includes might, you may fill or erase 1 additional clock. One that I thought was fun was the Polypoda, squids, octopi, creatures with tendrils or vines. Your unarmed strikes gain multi 3, so you just throw tentacles and start whipping dudes. Tachytheria? Tachytheria? I have no idea. I don't know. You treat your deck size as one side higher when you succeed on a check. This one's like the might one, but for dex instead. Toxophoria, when you deal damage with an attack or spell, you may have that damage be poison. While your unarmed strikes deal poison damage, any enemy loses 20 or more hit points due to your unarmed strike. They also suffer the poison condition. So yeah, the mutant is sick. Their big thing is transform your limbs into various shit. Also, the art for the mutant character is very cool.
Yes, it's very it's exactly what I want. You're like a normal person. They've got the broken control helmet on, and they're the
Big
D Gray Man anime large
Yeah.
claw covered in scales. Yeah, dude, it's sick.
Yep.
Did you notice that her hair is turning into hands?
I didn't. Oh, it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah, her ponytail is a hand. It's also got the scale, the scales on it.
nice. That's kind of gross.
Very fucking cool.
And then the last big one, the pilot.
The motherfucking pilot, babe, dude. The second Paladin was like, hey, they have a mech pilot in this one. I'm like, I'm in. I don't care what the fuck else is in this book. I'm in.
So just to be clear, this pilot, like, the game calls it a class. This is basically its own little subsystem.
No, yeah, it is. It is bigger than a class. It's smaller than Technospheres by far. But it is on a similar, yeah, it's on a similar tier because
the pilot is 11 pages long.
Yeah, it's 11 pages long, and because any character can take it, and it is one of the recommendations for the game is for everyone to take levels in pilot.
Yeah,
it's pretty close to Technospheres.
If you want to do your mecha fantasy, have everybody take some levels in pilot and be mecha pilots. Like, that's how you would go about doing that if you wanted to do that vibe. Or even if you wanted everyone to just be like starfighter pilots or any of that shit. So the pilot's unique mechanic is a pilot's vehicle. So, I mean, it's what it sounds like. You get a vehicle and there's a bunch of tables and shit to explain to you how to design your vehicle and what applies to it and all this shit. So, like, I barely even have the chutzpah on this. So entering your personal vehicle during a conflict requires an action, the objective action. There's no check normally, but there might be a check if the GM says, whatever. If the personal vehicle is accessible when the conflict begins, you may enter it immediately. Leaving your personal vehicle doesn't require an action. You can do it before or after. The personal vehicle can obtain a variable number of human-sized creatures. Can contain a variable number of human-sized creatures depending on its frame and modules, but only its pilot may drive it. Additionally, other passengers cannot cover creatures when they use the guard action. The number of modules enabled at the same time on a personal vehicle is equal to 3 plus the pilot's skill level in the personal vehicle skill. The pilot may freely reassign the personal vehicle's enabled and disabled modules outside of combat. Basically, you can hot swap the vehicle's equipment. So remove the guns and put a different one, change the engine, yada yada yada. Also, yes, you can technically play a pilot and not have a personal vehicle because it is the skill that you have to pick up.
Once again, one of those weird little things, but yeah.
Yeah. Personal vehicle is made of the following. It has a frame that informs the general type. So a steed for riding animals, bikes, small starfighters, skateboards, and the like. Exoskeletons for power arms and mechanical limbs, and then mecha for large combat robots piloted from within. Each pilot must pick a frame for their personal vehicle, then obtain the skill. Thus, this remains unchanged for the rest of the game, so make sure to choose carefully based on your style, personality, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. A variable number of weapon modules, weapon armor, and support weapon modules, armor modules, and support modules can be connected to the personal vehicle's control system, enabled, or kept inactive but still attached, disabled. Some options, such as the flexible configuration skill and the secondary offensive module, may allow you to quickly enable and disable modules to briefly activate or disable, or to briefly activate a disabled module. Reading is hard. Basically, that skill lets you be like, all right, powering down heat sword, activating minigun, that whole vibe. The upcoming pages contain the explanation of various module types and all the rules governing them. So the armor modules. So while driving a vehicle with an armor module enabled, a pilot does not have access to the normal contents of their armor slot. Instead, the slot is considered occupied by the personal vehicle's armor module. If the personal vehicle has no armor module equipped, the pilot can keep using their equipment as normal. The main way, this is a good point to point out, or a good spot to point out. The main way that the pilot character vehicle works is the vehicle replaces your shit. So the vehicle's weapons replace your weapon. The vehicle's armor replaces your armor. The basic idea is when you're in the vehicle, your character like swaps to the vehicle sheet, and you don't use your you don't use your stats and stuff, or you don't use your equipment. I should say, not necessarily your stats.
Yeah, you basically treat your character for all intents and purposes as the mech.
Yeah. As soon as the pilot stops driving a personal vehicle with the enabled armor module, they gain access to their normal shit. Armor modules marked with the star are considered martial for the sake of skills and other effects, and they see the pilots, and they set the pilot's defense and magic defense to fixed scores, which is to say, when you're in the mech, you use the mech's armor, you know. Yeah. Pilots can use these modules even if they lack the ability to equip martial armor. Weapon modules. While driving your vehicle with one or more weapon modules enabled, a pilot does not have access to the normal contents of their hand slots because you're in the robot, Shinji. You can't use a gun. Instead, these slots are considered to be occupied by the personal vehicle's weapon modules. If the personal vehicle has none, the pilot can use theirs. Basically, so for example, your hoverboard might not have a weapon module, so you can use your gun, you can use your assault rifle on the hoverboard. As soon as the pilot stops using a personal vehicle with weapon modules enabled, they get access to theirs. Each weapon module counts as a one-handed, non-martial weapon for the sake of character skills and effects. When you set up your personal vehicle's weapon modules, declare which module will occupy the main hand slot and which will occupy the offhand. Some weapon modules are cumbersome and prevent you from having other weapon modules enabled on the same personal vehicle. So like, two-handed weapon, you can't use a one-handed weapon. Same kind of idea as like a regular weapon. Because each weapon module is treated as a one-handed weapon, a pilot driving a personal vehicle with two enabled weapon modules that are the same category benefits from two-weapon fighting, and if they have the ambidextrous skill, they can use that too. And these support modules are, the support modules are the accessories for your vehicle. That's all.
It's things like your advanced targeting, your interfacing, your armor typing,
onboard AI or some shit.
Yeah.
So damage and repairs. A pilot's personal vehicle doesn't have its own stats and is treated as an extension of the pilot. So that's like what I was saying before. It can be damaged or rendered temporarily unusable as narrative consequence of the pilot's surrender, but it can't be destroyed unless the player agrees to it. Repairing a narratively damaged personal vehicle requires an amount of Zenith equal to the pilot's skill level in personal vehicle multiplied by 100. On the other hand, rebuilding a destroyed vehicle should be achieved as part of the pilot's narrative arc. Basically, the personal vehicle is not like its own stat sheet that you have to keep track of and shit. It's more like a really fancy weapon, mechanically speaking. Fictionally speaking, it's your big robot, but mechanically speaking, it is a weapon and it is an extension of your character sheet. You still use your character sheet as normal, you use your stats as normal, etc., etc. Which is good. I like that. I didn't necessarily want to have to deal with an entirely separate sheet of information if I wanted to play a pilot class, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I really have to appreciate when the game's constant reiteration of you cannot just take your players' toys away. Yeah, because I don't know if you've been in games like this, but I have been in games like where
not really, no. But yes, I know you have.
Your character will have a cool gimmick, a thing that they're super excited about, they like a lot, and the GM might just decide, actually, this thing is kind of annoying, and then just take it away, and you're like, but GM, this was my whole thing, and now I don't have that thing. And they're like, well, now you can get that thing back. And it's yeah, but now I'm just not the character that I want to play and everybody else is.
It is worth pointing out that there is a way to handle that, as a GM, oh no, this is getting annoying, but just taking it away in the narrative is not necessarily the move.
No, yeah, and it just feels shitty across the board.
Yeah. Then it has a section talking about rare modules as rewards, which is to say, letting the pilot get fancy magic items for their mecha or for their ship or whatever. Nothing to write home about here. It works basically the same as rewarding magic items. There's a couple of specific things that you need to worry about relative to the personal vehicle, but nothing fancy. As a general rule, a pilot should never have access to 2 or more support modules with different names whose effects are similar or cumulative. Don't let them stack crazy buffs, as the game has said in many other places.
Yes.
And then it mentions if you're playing a Tinkerer class, a character with the Tinkerer class might wish to use the upgrade heroic skill in the rules for projects to improve modules or invent new customizations for your personal vehicle. For instance, they might install a reactor to enable spaceflight or an antenna that emits anti-magic waves. When it comes to special modules created through projects, the group as a whole should make sure these do not impede on other characters' abilities and roles. It is a good idea to give such modules a limited number of uses or interesting flaws that can lead to choices and memorable scenes. Don't just let your Tinkerer character give them a giant fuck you, destroy the planet laser cannon.
As funny as that would be.
And then it gives a big chart of some sample personal vehicles, a hover skate, armored motorcycle, assault exoskeleton, bipedal destroyer, which I feel like is probably a Metal Gear reference.
No, actually, I've been thinking about this since we decided it. I figured out what they're from.
What?
So, assault exoskeleton, that's your Fallout power armor.
Uh-huh.
The bipedal destroyer is actually an Imperial Knight from Warhammer.
Okay,
because it has the axe, the flamer, the flat cannon.
Fair enough.
The infiltrator scout, that's a Gundam.
Yes, that was
the mechanical crab. That is either a mobile armor from Gundam or a Metal Gear. And then the Scorpion class armor suit, I think that's a Warframe.
I could see that.
And then the Starfighter is just it's a Starfighter.
Yeah.
Armored motorcycle.
Armored motorcycle.
Yeah, it's the Kaneda bike. It's the fucking Akira bike. Like, and then the hover skates. It's a hoverboard. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. So then it gives you. So as it said, you have basically the way you build it. You have your frame, which is exoskeleton, mecha, or steed. And they have a couple of. They're mostly the same. They have a couple of rules, and they interact with the pilot skills a little bit differently. And then it also gives you a modifier on the distance, which is like how far basically if you have like a starship, for example, how far can you travel in a day with the starship? And then it has armor plating, which is you have flexible plating, heavy plating, runic plating, and standard plating. The basic idea being that these are your AC for your personal vehicle. And when you jump in your personal vehicle, you have your personal vehicle's armor class. So your pilot might have really shitty armor class, but, your vehicle might have a good one. So if you jump in it or on it or whatever, yay. And then it gives a bunch of example weapon modules and armor modules and support modules. And there is a whole lot of support modules.
A lot, yeah.
Once again, not going to read them, but there's a whole bunch of them there. Is one of them onboard AI? I don't know if I saw that one.
For support module, it's
advanced targeting, Counter-Strike,
AI.
anti-element, aerial, Counter-Strike evacuation, or excavation.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is an onboard AI.
Huh. And then the heroic skills. They work the same as the other heroic skills. Nothing new to talk about there. There's new ones, but they work like the other ones. Yeah. I don't know if you have any comment on that, but yeah.
No, although I do really like the mecha heroic skills, because once again, I'm like, I know what you're doing.
I know what that reference is. Yeah.
Yeah, so like the dramatic synchronization, that's the Gurren Lagann, or the the Aquarion, like we have to sync our minds to pilot better. After that, you have your overload burst.
Dynamic.
It's your your GM drive from Gundam 00. It's like not your berserker mode, but your like overclock mode.
Right.
And then Steel Witch, Gundam Witch from Mercury, like
probably.
Yeah.
I do like that quantum magi cannon is one.
Yeah, I was talking with Paladin. We were like, you kind of need the magic cannon, and henceforth should get the quantum magic cannon because you just make your gun cooler.
Yes. There's also one just called Bullet Time, which is funny.
Yeah, the bullet time is really funny. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, and then there's the antagonist section, which again is the same as the antagonist section from the previous book. It gives you a bunch of sample villains, one of which has minions who look suspiciously like Shinra soldiers.
What? No. What?
Those Syntech cops, those helmets look kind of familiar. I don't.
Yeah, what? No.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
One of them, though, did you look at the... Oh, yeah, one of them's just 3, like, rival mecha pilots, the Ardent Squadron.
Yes.
Thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that one had me chuckle. Yeah, because one of them is piloting a Gundam, 8, and then 9 is the AC pilot, and then fucking 10. I'm sorry, 7. I don't know. That's like you got the Mono Eye in red, so you're like maybe Gundam. It's also his mech is called Red Queen, which I thought was cool. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I was thinking it was Getter, like Great Getter Robo, but yeah, no, it's got a Mono Eye, so probably just a reference.
Probably. Did you look at the Deep Fusion one?
The Deep Fusion one.
It is a giant sentient eldritch horror AI that coalesced and wants to destroy the world via social media manipulation. And it was created by a megacorp.
It's just a rampant NHP from fucking Lancer. Yeah.
I was like, that's maybe a little too close to home. And then of course, Sentius 15, which what the fuck is that thing?
That's frankly horrifying.
Just like with the Tragedia, I don't really know how to describe this. There's a man who kind of looks like some sort of techno super space pope summoning an awful eldritch demon from a portal that I would not want to talk to or hang out with in any capacity.
No.
I literally, I know we're talking about an art piece that no one can see, but like, I don't know how to describe this fucking thing.
It's just nightmare fuel. It's just insane to look at. It's wild.
It's awful.
It is in theory a misshapen, grotesque humanoid, like fetus thing with bones jutting out and ribs making like wing lay motifs and like a rib cage sticking out of its arm to make arm blades. And like a wing growing out of one of its 4 elbows. There's a face on its arm.
There's also like maybe its brain coming out of the back of its neck. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. The guy above the like
Emerald,
evil.
Saron.
Yeah, I have a thought. I think that is referencing somebody in particular. There is a Warhammer YouTuber who is a bit of a problematic individual, politically speaking, one of the many, who looks just like this guy. I will send you a picture of his face afterwards.
Okay.
And yeah, he often portrays himself as a member of the Inquisition.
Oh.
Yeah, it's starting to look a little sus, isn't it?
All right, well, that's fun.
Which, I mean, the character in question is like a cyber fascist inquisitor man, so
interesting thought. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the Techno Fantasy book. It ends with the antagonist, just like the other one. I mean, much like the other one.
Jesus, 2 hours and 8 minutes. I thought we were doing so good.
Shouldn't have looked. You shouldn't have looked.
Oh, Brett, I'm so sorry.
I tried. Tried to be faster.
We couldn't. The mechanics were so deep in this book.
Almost like we should just skip straight to chapter 3 and just be like, the other stuff don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth bringing up, but yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Point being, I cry. Point being, That's the Techno Fantasy book. Much like the other one, super sick supplement, very much into it. I had a couple of super minor complaints, but like emphasis on minor.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of personally anything that I would complain about.
I mean, like I said, there was a thing where I wanted a little bit more out of the equipment potentially.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like there was a couple of other like really tiny things, but I tiny enough that I actually forgot what they were now. So yeah, and it gave me a reason to poo on D&D again.
I fucking guess, dog.
I mean, it's true.
You're not wrong. It just. Oh my god.
Anyway.
Yeah.
This has been us. I forgot to say subscribe again, but you should subscribe if you got this far. Goddamn.
Yeah.
Because I forgot again. Just like mom forgot you at the orphanage. What? Whoa, hey.
I mean.
Who said that?
I will trauma dump you
don't
again. Don't make me do it.
Don't.
I'll do it right here live on the air.
No, don't do this. Don't do this. I wasn't talking. I was talking to an ethereal nobody. I wasn't talking to you.
I don't know, boss.
Signing off now.
All right.
It's time to go home.
Peace, motherfucker.